In this video, I'm going to show how to replace the front lower ball joint on this Nissan Frontier. This is located on your lower control arm. Let's get started. With the vehicle safely raised and supported, use a 21mm socket, remove all 6 lug nuts, and then pull the wheel off. And now remove your wheel. Now on the knuckle side, we'll see where the outer tie rod is held on with this mounting nut. However, on top of that is a cotter pin which we have to remove. This one is quite rusted, so I may have to break it off, but I'm going to try to remove it first. Oftentimes they get stuck though. I'm just going to cut mine off and use my impact to get the nut over that. If you had to, you could drill out that old cotter pin after the nut is off. Use a 22mm socket and remove this mounting nut. I am going to reinstall it just a couple threads. What this is going to do is when the tie rod stud breaks free, it's going to stop it from falling down all the way. That's plenty. Now hit this with a hammer and break free that stud. All right, and that came off, so we're going to remove the mounting nut now. Pull this off. Now from the back side of the caliper, you'll see 2 19mm mounting bolts. We have to remove these so we can pull the caliper and bracket off as an assembly and set it aside. With both of those off, the caliper and bracket assembly with the pads should slide off. Now you want to hang it with a bungee cord or a hook so it does not pull on the brake hose. From the front side, remove the rotor. If it's stuck, you can tap between the lug studs and break it free. Let's unhook the ABS cable, remove it from these 2 retainers on the back of the knuckle. Follow it and you'll see one more attaches right to the brake line bracket. Follow the wire up till you see where it's plugged in. Now the plug is actually secured to the frame. This up here is the vehicle harness. So with a pocket screwdriver, I'm going to try to pry this in and up and out. There we go. The screwdriver helps me push on this little tab, which locks it in. And now we can use a trim tool and unhook this. From the back side of the knuckle, you'll see where the hub is bolted on. We'll use a 17mm socket and remove all 4 bolts that hold the hub and bearing assembly onto the knuckle. For this lower one, you can either use a swivel or you could spin the knuckle the other way or do it by hand, whatever works for you. Now you want to use a hammer, tap this back and forth until it pops out. Also keep in mind the backing shield will come off with it and remove the whole thing. Okay, there it is. Now at the bottom of the knuckle, we'll have a 17mm headed bolt with a 21mm nut. We're going to have to hold the nut and unthread the bolt or vice versa, whatever works best for you. That's how I'm going to do it. And just be very careful, go back and forth if needed because you don't want to break this bolt in the knuckle. This one is quite stuck, so what I will do is try to break free the nut. That'll release pressure off the bolt and then we'll try to spin the bolt. It's most likely stuck inside of this hole in the knuckle. All right, so with that off, we'll put our power tool on this and try to spin it free. I've already sprayed it with rust penetrant a bunch. What often happens is, like I said, they'll get stuck right in here. Even if the nut is off, you're gonna have a hard time taking it out. Oh, looks like I got it. At this point I have it spinning, so I'm going to take an air chisel and try to drive it out. Now what we want to do is take a pry bar or a chisel or something that'll fit in here nice and tight, hammer it in, and that'll spread this knuckle apart so we can take the lower ball joint off easier. Tap on the knuckle and hopefully the vibrations will break it free. Got it. We have to remove this snap ring that locks in the lower ball joint. Let's try to break it free first. Oh, looks like it's popping out at the same time. That's okay. You can use a screwdriver or a little pry bar. At this point, you can either use a hammer and punch it down or a ball joint press. We'll need a ball joint press to install it anyway, so I'm just going to go with the ball joint press for removal. This is my setup. I have the ball joint press pressing directly on the top of the ball joint, and then on the bottom I have a receiving cup, so it fits around the ball joint but inside the control arm. Just an adapter for this press to hold up against, and then of course the press itself. Let's put some pressure on it and pull it out. There it is. Use some sandpaper or a wire wheel on a drill, whatever you have, to clean up this area so that the new ball joint can press smoothly into the control arm. And I'll add a little bit of grease just so it can protect it from corrosion, as well as help the new ball joint slide in smoother. It doesn't really matter what kind of grease you use here, as long as it's lubricated and protected from corrosion. Now, when you install the new ball joint, you're going to need to press on this outer lip of the base of the ball joint. Be careful of the boot, and definitely do not press on the stud itself. Doing that will ruin the ball joint. And you want to make sure it goes in all the way until it bottoms out up against here. Of course, we'll be installing it upwards this way. This is my setup here. I have the ball joint in this cup that fits perfectly on the edge. Of course, the ball joint press and a receiving cup with an adapter up top. I'm going to start this in and then put some pressure on it and drive it in the rest of the way. As you do this, make sure it's going in straight, not at an angle. It should self-correct if it happens to go slightly crooked, but pay attention because you can destroy the ball joint or the control arm pressing it in crooked. Okay, we'll take that out. And this, as you can see, our ball joint is fully seated here. It looks even. Looking from underneath, it also looks perfect. Now to lock it in, let's install the new snap ring. And this one is pretty tough, so without snap ring pliers, you might not be able to get this on. There we go. We'll just make sure it's fully seated. Move it around. Perfect. Now reinstall the knuckle on the lower ball joint. I recommend putting some grease on there where the ball joint goes through. Press it up all the way. I have a pull jack underneath that I'm going to put pressure upwards on the knuckle with. And what that's going to do is help me drive it back up onto the ball joint. For me, it seemed a little bit difficult by hand. It wouldn't seat all the way. And there we go. That just went right in. Once you do have it installed, put your bolt through. I put anti-seize on the bolt so it doesn't corrode in the future. Once the bolt is through, you can release your support. Now we can put on the mounting nut. And we'll tighten this up. Torque this to 70 foot-pounds. Line this up. Make sure that wire stays out of the way. Put the bearing in. It should slide in all the way nice and smooth. Try your best to keep things lined up so you can more easily put the bolts in And now from the back side, thread at least one bolt in. That way you can let go and put in the rest of them. With all of them in, hold the bearing and snug them up. I'm going to go in a cross pattern to seat this all properly. Torque these bolts to 44 foot-pounds. Because I tighten them up in a cross pattern, I'm not going to go in a cross pattern to torque them, but if you were bottoming them out now while torquing, definitely go in a cross pattern. Double check them all. All right, those are tight. Reattach your ABS wire, put a little bit of silicone paste on those bushings. That'll make things easier to line up. Resecure that connector onto the frame. And then grab the other end of it and plug it in. There we go. Before installing our rotor, make sure you coat this hub with some anti-seize, that way it doesn't corrode in the future. If you are reusing an old rotor, clean the backside where it mounts to the hub. That way it can mount nice and flat. I'm putting on a new rotor, so I don't have to worry about it. Reinstall the caliper assembly. Have your 2 bolts ready to mount it back on. And we'll tighten them up. Torque these to 136 foot-pounds. All right, that's torqued. Bring the knuckle over, put the outer tie rod stud up and through, and get the mounting nut on. Snug up this mounting nut. Torque this to 63 foot-pounds. It is normal for this to want to spin as you try to torque it. That's tight. To make sure that you can lock this in, turn the castle nut until one of the slots lines up with the cotter pin hole. If it does not line up, or if it's close, continue tightening and never loosen no matter how close this is. Now you can take your cotter pin, slip it through, and we'll bend it to lock it in. All right, that's locked in. Reinstall your wheel. If your vehicle has those center caps, you'd want to put that on now, then the lug nuts. We'll install all 6 of these, bottom them out in a cross pattern, and then also in a cross pattern, we'll torque them to 98 foot-pounds. "98 foot-pounds in a cross pattern, here we go. Double check them all. And take it for a road test.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.